Okay, so we're going to get started. Running a little bit late, but I hope everybody really enjoyed the lunch, and thanks for sticking around for the panel this afternoon. We were talking about bringing real estate into the 21st century, I believe kicking and screaming, possibly behind a tractor. But we've got a great panel here with us today. My name is Jeff Lekelenik. I'm with Jacobs LP. I've been working with the Barrie board for the last 18 months on technology and strategy, and I've had the opportunity and the pleasure of working with many of the gentlemen here. Starting from the end, we have Ernie Vance. He's joining us all the way from Vancouver. If your website has any real estate listings on it, if you've ever used any MLS system, if you've ever logged into pretty much anything in organized real estate, Ernie makes all of that work under the hood. So we're really happy to have him here. Next we have Joel, who's based in Toronto, but just jumped off a plane from San Diego, so another traveler for us. Joel is with Remine, who's doing some great things in real estate technology down in the States. And as a lot of people in technology know, when it happens in the States, it's coming north probably in the next 6 to 12 months, so we get a little bit of a glimpse of the future from Joel. Next we have Todd with CoreLogic. They're the guys behind the Matrix platform, which Barrie has just rolled out to, I think, some great success, and certainly much more ease of use than some of the previous platforms. Always gets a laugh when we talk about Stratus. And then we have Charles. Charles is joining us from Montreal, so again, everybody's made quite the journey to get here. Charles is behind Prospects, the fantastic mobile application, and brought that to North American real estate. And being in the mobile world, has his eye on what's coming next and what's cutting edge. So just a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to be talking today very generally about the state of real estate technology and what's going on there. All of these gentlemen have specific products and specific companies that they work with, and this is going to be the time to talk about generally how those impact the world. After this session, each of them will have some time for doing product demonstrations. Everybody's going to be sticking around, so if you did have specific questions on Prospects, on CoreLogic, on any of the other platforms, we're going to have lots of time this afternoon for one-on-one. This session is going to be sort of the more philosophical discussion of technology. I guess, in talking about technology, it's kind of what are we talking about? Technology really is part of every day in real estate, whether it's, fighting with your email or your cell phone or logging into the 20 or 30 different systems you have to log into, whether it's from your brokerage or association, what have you. These are challenges that are not unique to real estate. Everybody is dealing with more and more things with a keyboard these days. If you go back 20 or 30 years, none of this existed. All of these industries, real estate, banking, insurance, still managed to function. Now we do it differently. Technology in some cases is letting us do things that we've never been able to do before, and in other cases is causing headaches that we've never had before. So we're talking today about the good, the bad, the ugly. Feel free to call out, the things that you hate as well as the things that you love and the opportunities that you see. This is going to be a no-holds-barred session. I guess the only other real caveat to that is there are sometimes the temptation to fight technology change. So people are like, oh, well, I don't need that. I don't have to use the new system. What I've got works well enough. And I think something that you'll see as we talk through some of these questions and something that you'll see in other industries is whether you love it or hate it, whether you want to use it or not, all of this is coming. And the challenge for today, and I think the challenge going forward in the real estate industry, is know that change is coming, especially driven by technology, and you can't sort of hide from it. This will be a transformative industry for the next 5 or 10 years and longer, and you can let it happen to you, or you can be active and participate in it, and one of those is going to be better for your business than the other. So with that, we're going to jump right into the questions that we have for the panel. We'll talk amongst ourselves for probably another 20 or 30 minutes, and then we'll certainly open it up to the floor for any questions that you may have. I guess we'll start with Charles and we'll work down for this one. Maybe just, very quickly, 1 or 2 sentences on what each of your companies do, and more importantly, what are your clients asking you to do these days?
Well, thank you. Well, we have 2 products. The first one is Prospects Mobile, that a lot of people know here. And It's used by over 190,000 agents in North America. And we also have a CRM, Prospect CRM, that's our core business. So those are the two products that we push and we're focused on. Clients every agent they all have requests, things that they want to do. They want to basically automate their processes. They want to save time, and so we're focused on that, trying to, meet their needs and trying to help them in their day-to-day business. That's for the CRM. For the mobile app, the agents are on the road. That's what they do, right? They're away from the office most of the time, and they need to have access to the MLS. And while they have really good system like Matrix, there's a need for a good mobile app that can give you, all the information that you want when you're away from your office. That's what we do. Those are the requests that we get, like how make this better. I need this. We should have that. We should need columns and things like that. Things that agents need when they're away from their office. We're focused. That's what we do.
For sure, Mike, sit down and talk.
Yes, thank you. And good afternoon. So CoreLogic, we're the primary and by far the leading provider of MLS solutions across North America. The Matrix platform that you guys use today services over 760,000 members on a daily basis. So it's installed throughout the US and Canada and used by the masses out there. We have a whole variety of other ancillary related products besides the core MLS system. So we try to as well extend that core functionality out to other areas that you rely upon on a daily basis with regards to tools. As far as what they're asking for us as of late, it's more about being able to provide more consumer-facing tools to the agents and the brokers, and making sure that that consumer experience is top-notch, because it's coming from the agents and the brokers. So it's really us focusing on trying to deliver those types of products and improve that experience. The other thing, as you'd already noted as well, that we keep continually get asked for is there are so many products and services that they use on a daily basis. How can we simplify that process and make that easier? So the recent acquisition of Clarity Security was in direct response to that request, and that was to create a tool or acquire a tool that will be able to give us that single sign-on access to all of our different tool sets, make it an easier environment for us to gain access to.
Hi, my name is Joel Shears. Over the years, I've met many of you through the old mobile days, teaching wireless technology, BlackBerry. I was a BlackBerryologist, if some of you recall. It's not a bad word, I can still say that. I'm the Director of Industry Relations at Remind. Remind is a Washington, or just outside of Washington, D.C. startup working with big data and predictive analytics. And just going right back to the intro that Jeff provided about change, and then to this question, it all kind of blends together for us, because the biggest thing we see as to what agents want is access to information in a simple, easy, and time-sensitive manner. One click, sharing a listing, property detail, a tax record, consumer information all together, as opposed to you going to multiple sources. And what's really cool about what we're doing is we've uncovered, if you will, a wealth of information that I think agents, to make you the forefront of the transaction and keep you at the forefront of transaction is really key. So our focus is really very much on you. It has nothing to do with anything other than providing you with usable, and we're going to use this term, actionable intelligence. It's great that people sell leads. Some leads work, some don't. But to actually have actionable intelligence, to have information at your fingertips with one click is key. And then the second part of this is, bringing all of us together is really interesting because we implement through Matrix. So we're an overlay on top of the MLS system. And one of the things we're doing right now is we're integrating with some CRMs, which is one of Charles' companies. Because I think that's the other thing when you ask about what are people, in this case the agents in this room, the salespeople, asking for? And that is this, I'm going to use the word fusion. This is instead of some of the other words that we throw around, we're going to create a new one for this. We're going to fuse a bunch of things together. So again, it's one click will take you from actionable intelligence information on a property and people right into your CRM, drawing in the MLS data. So now you can talk to a client with, you know, all the information you need to be the center of influence for them.
Hi, my name is Ernie Vance. So I offer consulting services to MLSs across Canada. So I, consult with boards and interpret what these three guys say into things they understand. It's funny because I develop web forms and I do a lot of third-party coordination of vendors and all that kind of thing. But when I think of this question about who the clients are, I always think of it's not really the board who's the client, it's the agents or the clients of the real estate board, and that's who I'm helping. And my tagline is usually, basically the agent wants anything that is faster, cheaper, and better that A, makes me money, B, saves me money, or C, saves me time, which of course makes money. So really, I'm not selling anything except some advice. Thanks.
Fantastic. So just to kind of two key themes that I heard in that were, have these systems provide some automation, do take pieces out of the puzzle for me. And second of all, get these systems all in one place. You don't want to have to remember all the logins, remember all the passwords, the URLs and whatnot. And I think, we made some steps forward with that in Barrie and some of the dashboards that we put in. But that's certainly, you want to go to one screen on your phone. You want to go to one place and get everything together. So that leads us really nicely into the next question is, okay, well, who's responsible for making that happen? Because there are all sorts of different players who own these. Your brokerage owns some technology, the boards own some technology, you personally own some technology, the government I'm sure has a few things kicking around. So again, back, and maybe we'll start with Charles on this one. Who really owns this? Who has the mandate to pull these things together? You can answer in French.
Can I have a glass of wine? I need to phone a friend. Good one, Joel. Who owns technology? I'm not sure. I don't know. Honestly, who owns the technology? I think it's ultimately everything that we do. Everything that the agents do are for the consumers, and everything that we do is for the agents. Anything has to be for the agents. So I guess the answer is the agents own everything. I have one boss, and my boss is my client, and my clients are the agents. So I don't know if it's the answer you want, but that's how I see it. Is the agents own everything. They own the data, they own the technology. Everything we do is theirs. They pay for it, they work hard for it, so that's how I see it. Don't have a better answer than you.
So I'm going to disagree with what Charles just said. No, technology is owned by the licensor, not the licensee, right? You guys are the licensee. In most cases, the agents, the brokers are the licensee of that technology. So the technology, in real terms, is owned by the licensor, the creator of that. But how that's utilized, how it's, again, subscribed to and whatnot, then it drives down to, well, who's really driving that? Then is it the agent, the broker, the consumer, or whatnot? And that's a whole other question. When you get to the data side of that question as well, because it's always a good one to ask, and who owns the data then within that space? When it comes to listing data, that usually falls back to the broker. The broker owns that listing data. When it goes to data as it relates to contact information, that usually falls back to the agent owns and manages that contact information, unless a broker is using some CRM application that's qualifying and assigning that. So, in regards to who owns it and who truly drives it, it depends on what one of those buckets it falls into.
Is that your final answer?
So again, I'll actually, and this is a far and few between, but I'm actually going to agree with Todd on this. We've been competitors for the last 15 years. I switched sides, but I agree with you. It's the company that puts the IP into it, puts in the intellectual property, pays to build it, who has the staff, who pays the license fees for access to the information. That's really what it comes down to. The challenge, I think I'm going to twist this question a little bit. The challenge is, and this is now that I'm working more on the US side, is the size of the real estate boards in Canada. So now that I'm working with Bright MLS, which is 95,000 realtors, it's as big as Canada. One MLS that I'm working with in the States, they have an IT team. They build product. They dictate to the MLSs what they want because they're big enough, right? And when you have a membership of that size, your membership dues, obviously, they're generating and they need to be spent. And they can spend it on technology. So the question about who owns the technology, the agent, the brokerage, the association, it also becomes a factor of the group purchasing power, if we can get to that here. If we can do the regions like AREA has on the map, whatever it becomes down the road, where the MLSs and the boards and the associations could actually design what they want for their members. That's the one side. Or if you get involved in a partnership with a vendor who's willing to build a proof of concept to fulfill your own individual unique needs. Other than that, it's exactly what Todd was saying. It's the guys who pay for it to build, own it.
Okay, I won't agree with any of you. Just kidding. So I've been around MLSs and real estate boards for quite a long time, and this topic comes up about who owns the data, which is, I had Jeff add that in, because the technology is kind of nebulous. But it's interesting that you sign a listing contract with your consumer, with your vendor, and the brokerage actually owns that contract. They're the ones responsible for that. And if it's an MLS agreement, they're obligated to hand it into this system that the board controls, manages, called the MLS. Once the board receives that, of course, they're aggregating all this data and adding value to it, data quality control, all sorts of goodies, automated business rules, and so on. So in your listing agreement, you'll see there's a reference to that. The MLS is the one that kind of sort of has the right to market that data and do with it what they will, right? So it's kind of an interesting twist. The trend in Canada for the last few years is to regionalize more and more of the boards into a group MLS system, right? Like what you've done with Ortus. So now you've got 8 boards managing and owning that MLS, and they're trying to agree amongst themselves what to do with that data, who to pass it on to, who to create site licenses with in the way of vendors and that kind of stuff. As the third-party coordinator for Ortus, we have close to 100 third-party vendors who receive a data downloaded, 15 minutes all day long. But ironically, the board, of course, is owned and governed by the agents, and they're the ones paying the membership dues and deciding who does what, when, and where, right? So at the end of the day, everybody owns the database and that technology that the MLS is using.
Well, I gotta say, I think I like Charles's answer best. Nice and simple, and I think at a certain level, right, you guys are the ones out there who are driving this industry, and you have the responsibility to say, this works for me, this doesn't. The guys who provide this software are terrible, I'm never touching that with a 10-foot pole again. But I think that was a great insight into the challenges of figuring out, who made this pie, who owns the pieces of it. There are no really clean lines in a lot of these things that we put together. So that leads nicely into the next question of challenges and clean lines, is real estate boards themselves. So real estate boards have a lot of trouble sharing, mostly information, but other things as well. I keep expecting on the drive up to 400, there's going to be a checkpoint saying you are now leaving Trev territory. So I'm going to check my trunk for lock boxes and sandwich boards, make sure I'm not rolling over boundaries or what have you. But other than just the competitive nature, and there's always going to be competition, but everybody in this room is a competitor of each other. They're all sitting down having lunch nicely and having great conversations. What's the challenge in the sharing of information, the sharing of knowledge between the real estate boards? technology? What's at the root of this? Maybe we'll start with Ernie, because he's been trying to bridge these gaps for quite a while.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess one of my advantages is working with real estate boards across Canada. So I see all sorts of different models, if you will. In Ontario, the revenue model for the boards is generally either the membership fees or the subscriber fees, right? So those non-member dues that they receive is a big deal in Ontario, and frankly, not so much in the rest of Canada. So in the rest of Canada, you have a rule of cooperation with the other boards that it doesn't matter what jurisdiction the member is in, that listing, wherever the address is, goes to the board where that address is in, right? So there's no need for all of these extra subscriber membership dues that you see in Ontario, right? So that's one of the reasons I think that there's a strong competition between the boards on where their jurisdiction starts and ends, because it's basically a competition for membership. And what we found in the Vancouver area when we all went on the same MLS system that quite a few members were concerned that, oh, those other Vancouver members are going to steal all my listings. Well, it turned out they actually got more realtors looking at their listings and selling their listings than they had before. So there wasn't quite the territorial need that they thought they had, right? There was that fear of the unknown, and it turned out that it was actually more positive, and they still made sales. Still had to work just as hard though, right? But yeah.
So it's always fun to have that conversation around the sharing of information in this industry. How many of you use Amazon? Anybody shop online, buy from Amazon? So you think about all the competing products that are represented in Amazon when you look up a category, mountain biking. Right? I'm a big mountain biker, so I'll go on and I'll buy pedals. It's a pedal. It doesn't do anything. It's just like a listing. A listing's a listing. So in the case of pedals, there's 35 companies competing for space on Amazon, but they get along and they all have some benefit of this relationship. But there was a time where people were afraid of the internet, as you all know. Right? When we launched the web, that was the end of real estate as we knew it, when listings started going onto the web. And of course, that didn't happen. So I look at this model and I say, well, is that the end of retail? Well, okay, let's flip it over now on the same question on the side of real estate. When we're writing out a new product, is that the end of the agent? Is that the end of the MLS? And the reality is, the same question comes right down to this thing with the borders, right? We take out these imaginary lines, and that data share, becomes a much simpler thought process. But I guess at the end of it, fear is a big part of it. Is there's a whole bunch of things here. There are people who have jobs, right? Whether they're staff at an MLS or the associations, there is realtors who are concerned about their territory. So it's a whole bunch of things, and I'm not sure today what the answer is to solve that, and I don't know that that's what we're here for, but I would say that if you think about this idea of cooperation, you simplify it right down to the concept of Amazon, you see that there is light at the end of the tunnel. I guess that's the point that I'm going to drive from.
Yeah, and I would agree with a lot of that, and my response would just be simply, what is the challenge of data sharing is it's politics. And technology is not an issue with regards to sharing data. It's all politically driven. I mean, the technology exists, it happens all over the place, so if there's challenges, it drives it back down to that local, as Joel said, that local sentiment and or either historical mindset of this is our data, this is only our data, and trying to break down those borders, those boundaries is the biggest challenge.
I agree with you, Todd. It's mostly, I'm in so many markets and we see the same thing, those fights, and I don't think that Barrie's affected. You guys are affected by that because there is a data share with Lakeland and Southern Georgian Bay, and so there's a real opening here. But to answer your question, it's really politics, really. It's down to that. And I think as an industry, when you have a consumer that can go on an app like Realtor.ca and can view all the listings across the nation, the country, and I have my agent, who's a real estate professional, who should have more than me, and they can't access all the data, that doesn't make any sense. The consumer should never have more information than the agent. So whatever associations do, their mission is to make sure that agents have more than consumers, and consumers can relate, can count on on agents. So it's a mission. It's like there's no choice. They have to make it happen everywhere in the country. And like Todd said, it's not technology. Technology, we can land on the moon, so we can, merge data. Not a problem. It's been challenging, but we can do it. And like we made a CRM, right? And when we started, I remember that there were some CRMs out there. And for those who don't know, a CRM is a contact relationship management system. You can manage your contacts, and some system would not allow you to export your contacts. So that's how they keep you. We're gonna keep them as clients because we're just gonna force them. But that's not the way to do it. I'm gonna let you do whatever you want with your contacts. I'm gonna have such a good customer service. I'm gonna have so many good features that you'll stay for the right reasons. So if you have two boards that are merging their data, they should not be afraid to lose their members because they have merged data. They should say, you know what, we're going to merge the data, we're going to make sure our members can access everything, and they will stay with us because we're going to offer such a good service to them. We're going to serve them so well that they won't go anywhere. So I think it's this whole mentality that has to change. So when this happens, you're going to see a lot of boards across Canada merging their data without fear. That's my answer.
Okay, so what I took from that was that all technology is easy, and I'm out of a job now, so I'll be heading this way. But I think that is, to some extent true. The challenge is we have programmers, we have database analysts, we have great organizations like this. The technology we can get through, and there's certainly something else there that's keeping some of the sharing and some of this openness from taking place. We're going to do one last question from up here, and then I do really want to open it up to everybody for just expand the brain trust out here. What I wanted to close with was kind of a generational question. Somebody who got their real estate license this year, probably younger, probably has grown up very comfortable with technology, with mobile devices, with social media. What is the biggest advantage they may have over somebody who started 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and has sort of had to go through this change piecemeal? What would be the biggest advantage if you were starting today from a technology standpoint? And maybe what would be the one trick that somebody who's been in this business for longer can steal from a digital native? And I'll let you guys choose who goes first, because I already picked on Charles. Right, Joe.
So it's this. I love this question because obviously I live in the high-tech world. I'm working with an organization now that does machine learning and artificial intelligence, and bringing these tools to the marketplace. One thing I want to note, and hopefully you'll stick around for a short while afterwards, we're going to do some product demos for you. Remine is owned by realtors. It's actually 3 realtors in the DC area. One of them, Leo Pareja, was the #1 Keller Williams agent in the world in 2010 and 11. So I work for these just really rock solid realtors and brokers who found the same challenges I mentioned before about getting access to information. And they're young. I'm the old man in the company, which is the weirdest thing for me to be. The reality, what I'm finding when I'm talking with them, and then when we go out and do demos at broker offices with the average demographic that we all know is not really true, but they say is 54 now in the US, that everybody's engaged by it because it's simple. And I think we no longer are as timid to adopt new technology because it is becoming simpler. How many of you in this room have an iPad or an iPhone? Do you know how to put an app on it? Do you know how to open the app? You are now becoming technology experts. We don't have that. The old joke everybody always used to say, the VCR clock was flashing 12 because we didn't know how to set it? Any of you still on daylight savings time in your car? Because a lot of this will start to update automatically. When you travel, does your phone automatically update? The time zone automatically updates. Okay, so my point is really that whether you're just joining the industry and you have a very good grasp of technology, have been around the industry and been successful, or for the last 20 years you've been around, I think what you're seeing is the products that are coming to market are very easy to use, they're quick, and a lot of that early stress that we had, we were always afraid to press that one button because we'd lose our whole database, right? Anybody ever have a Palm Pilot? Okay, so I didn't want to make anybody feel old, but so do you remember how many times in the Palm Pilot you were told to back up everything because you would inevitably lose it? We're not really dealing with that for the most part anymore. And I think that's taken a lot of the concern around the access and the type of products that are becoming available. And I think it's making your job a lot easier. You're not having to be technologists to run your business.
Okay, Sean. So I won't admit that I've been around 30 years, but I do remember creating this catalog every week about this thick for the realtors. You used to buy those and sit. Tear sheets. That's your time, not mine. But with the catalog, of course, it was still a busy time. You got your catalog in the car, you're driving around the neighborhood, you're trying to catch up on what's going on locally, right? Now you have to compete with your consumer, with your client, to try to get the same information faster than they are. So there's a bit of a stress part of this. Technology advances thanks to the internet and all these other different things. What I would recommend for anyone, including the younger millennials, is to hire the different people that you need to make your technology work for you better. Whether that means just getting advice on how to organize your day and keep that day timer up to date and so you're on time, and also hiring that website programmer that can make your website look cooler and newer, and also be aware that you need to keep those things up to date. Your website can't just stay behind in the 80s kind of style. You have to review that every year, maybe every 2 years tops. Be aware of creating anything that looks like a blog that you have to be on top of on a day-to-day basis. In other words, be careful of your time management. And any of those technology advances, they sound good on the surface for the first few days, but the novelty will wear off pretty quick. So I think overall, there's too many things going on. You got to sort of focus in and prioritize what it is that you want to take advantage of.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just kind of close the loop on that in the sense that I agree with both of them, and the fact of the matter of, if you look at the experienced person who's been in the industry 20, 30 years and the new person who's the WYSIWYG technologist, do they have an advantage? And I would say no. I mean, the reality is there are so many more tools and skill sets, as you know, that it takes to be successful in this business. The technology won't just solve for you as well. It is that perseverance, that dedication, that organization that you have to do. Somebody shared a statistic, 80% of the transactions that are done in North America are done within your influence sphere of people, not from an online consumer portal, right? So the reality is it is about around the people that you interact with, that you network with, that you end up conducting business with. So a new technology gadget might get you in front of some more of those eyes, but it's still those people that you interact with that is going to make you successful, I think, in this business.
The question was like the difference between young people and older people. Being older, no, I think that young people are, I would say from what I see, they're more open, less scared of technology. But beside that, I agree with Todd, it's a people business. You can use technology as much as you want, but you have to be in front of people. So I don't think it makes a big difference. I think that if you know how to use it, it obviously makes your life easier and better, a professional life. But other than that, I don't think it's going to change much. So yeah.
I'm just going to add one extra point to what Todd was saying. Let's not forget what causes or starts the process for a real estate transaction. Right? People get married, divorced, death, unfortunately, have kids. all of those things is the factor that creates the opportunity for a transaction. So it's not the technology per se. If we know that, we understand that, and we understand it's not the fancy blog, it's not the fancy postcard, it's not the technology, it's the people. That's the thing I just make sure we don't lose sight of, and you all know this. This is your business. But I find sometimes we lose track of that when we are looking for that shiny bauble, like newest gadget. We jump on what we think is the coolest thing. But let's not forget about what actually generates that opportunity for you to have. And it comes down to all of those life sequences, life opportunities.
Great, so we're look into that now. I think we do have a microphone that we can hand around out here. If there are any questions, maybe just put your hand up and I'll ask you ask your question, and also if there's someone in particular on the panel that you wanted to direct that to, if you could include that as well. Maybe you'd like to kick it off? Oh, right down in the front, thank you.
I have a question.
Robert's just coming with the mic there, I'll hear you.
It's maybe not as broad or as technical as you guys have been speaking, but since we've got it's Ernie, right? And you have your hand in web forms, is that correct? And Todd, you're with CoreLogic, right? Okay. The data entry form that we have to fill out in web forms, and then we have to then go to Matrix and resubmit all that same information. Is there a way that they could be streamlined together? Because I'd really like that. That would make my life easier. It would save me money because I'd be having more time.
Did Julia Payne just ask that question? Because
No, I ask that question all
I
the
just
time.
happened to be in the very last 10% of working with the web forms team, doing something called Realtor Load, where we capture all of the data onto the web forms, we push a button, and it posts it to Matrix.
And when was that being done?
There's that thing about, 80-20 rule.
Just say it'll be a Christmas present.
Christmas present, that's
There
good.
we go.
It was supposed to be ready by next week, but it's not. We just finished doing some thorough testing. We got some bugs. We're just waiting for the web forms team to catch up to us. We have a meeting next week in Winnipeg with the technical peer group, which, if you don't know, the Canadian Real Estate Association organizes every 6 months of all of the techies around the country. And so we're going over this Realtor Load. It's sponsored by the Ortis Group, the ones who you've joined, and it's pretty cool, right? So it'll do all of the residential property types. It'll create an incoming record in Matrix, so you then just finish it off, attach photos, attach open houses, and away you go.
Everything he said. No, the reality is, back to the point though, the technology exists.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the technology exists, and it's already 10 steps ahead of what you were just asking for. I've been involved in the U.S. I was with, as some of you know, I was with Filogix, who got bought by a whole variety of companies, including Lone Wolf in the end. And we were working with the National Association of Realtors on a project called AMP, or Front End of Choice. And the concept was being able to have whatever front end you want, whether it was Matrix or whatever platform, and being able to manage your information through that platform. But the phase, and I think Charles was working a little bit on this as well, was being able to do it with any device, any product. It wasn't a web forms necessarily. It was being able to take your data entry forms and have remote entry into your system. So that is going to be here. US is about a year ahead maybe, but I'm just telling you that globally, that is like one of the biggest things that's happening right now. And the second part of that is not only entry, but edit. And it's going to happen a lot faster because you certainly don't have to deal with as much. And then the biggest issue with it, of course, and the issue still with web forms and the delays, is business rules. So every single real estate board or MLS in the States has their own business rules. So you just got to keep that in mind. It's great, it exists, but we do have those political challenges still.
But very soon, everything will talk to everything. Perfect. I think we have another one down in the front. Oh, and what, there we go.
You may have just answered my question, because my request was that we have a single point of entry for listing data. Maybe our front desk systems would be the place of choice, so that our front desks have that information prior to anyone else having it. But then you enter the listing information once, it goes to your MLS system of choice, prospects, wherever else you need to send that information. I think the biggest waste of the realtor's time is multiple entry of data. And in the meantime, there is a signature sheet on Matrix, is there not, where she can enter the information
Yes,
for the sheet?
Yes.
there is.
Yep.
My brokerage still asks to have the data sheet signed, so I, on some of them, but you have to scribble this information down somewhere, so that's after the fact. But when you're taking room measurements and stuff like that, it would be great to be able to be putting it right into a system. Because regardless, when you're doing your measurements, when you're putting in your information, it'd be nice to put them in one spot, and you're not really doing it when you're submitting the listing.
So I think we're saying the same thing, that entering the data one time and then having it go to multiple places for multiple uses would be the optimal.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're working on. It's a bit complicated, obviously. So this piece of Realtor Load through web forms posted directly into the MLS. A few minutes later, the Lone Wolf back office program picks it up through their Reds feed and then redistributes it back through the office of wherever they've got it set up. And prospects as well, they have a data feed directly into prospects. So everything is kind of kept up to date as best as possible, and including Realtor.ca. It has a feed every 90 minutes now. Your new listing data is uploaded to Creus for marketing purposes. Remax Integra, there's all sorts of these third parties that are receiving the data as quickly as they want it, technically, but usually within an hour, it's being posted throughout.
So I think maybe we'll just, I think we've covered a lot of the great things that are coming, and it is probably the answer to this question and all the questions is the holy grail is everything talks to everything seamlessly after one data entry, and these guys are going to work diligently on making that happen. I think there was another question down the front.
Hello, I was just wondering if there was some kind of a new device, maybe Joel might know about it, artificial intelligence, where you can take it, screw it into your ear, it's called a USB thing, and then you take the flash drive of this new technology, you plug it in, and within a minute, you know instantly how to use all these new technologies. I find there's a big gap between all the new technologies, like, BombBomb, you hear about it, Secure Share, of course everyone's been through the DocuSign, and then the new software, we've had to learn Stratus, now we're back to learning about Matrix, what's next. There's such a big delay between me getting to, learning that new technology and applying it into my business. I don't know, anyone else feel like there's a real challenge there?
Yeah. I don't think it's complicated. I think there are so, you're right, there are so many, may I jump in? There are so many products, right? And it's true that it's hard to learn everything. I totally understand. So I think for us, I remember we used to say, agents will never be replaced by technology, but they will be replaced by agents that are using the technology. And now it's changing. I think now the technology that don't adapt to agents, that are not easy to use, like Joel mentioned, will be replaced by technologies that are. So we have to do a lot of work to make sure that whatever we build is intuitive and you actually save time, not waste your time learning it or try to adapt to it. So there's a lot of work that we need to do. It's not perfect. And on your side, you have to decide, like, if this is the technology that I want in my business, this is what's going to serve me, and I'm going to learn that part. So you've all learned Matrix, because you have to, you need it. You've decided, you made the decision that you needed to use that product. And then there's prospects. A lot of people are using mobile app because you need it when you're on the road. So you have to decide what you need in your business and focus on it and learn it. And there are so many tools that are out there to learn. Sometimes you're just so busy, right? Life goes, you're busy, you do your things, you want to sell homes, and that's your job. But you don't read all the emails, so you have to choose your technology and be open and watch for, whatever we send communications from the board and see how you can learn it. Because we try to help you. So that's the...
Yeah, my comment would be, thanks to the internet, things are moving around so fast, and you have so many choices, and it's easier for the developers now to copy kind of different things and different bells and whistles. So it is very difficult. And they tend not to keep up with the training part of it, or taking their time with documenting it, or any of that kind of stuff. So what I find, it's very complicated to keep things simple, right? And try to focus in on the number 1 or 2 or 3 tools that you have in your toolbox, not try to have 10 hammers in your toolbox for one thing, right? So it is a challenge for sure, and I appreciate that.
I love the USB key idea in your head. I'm going to work on it. It's great. Great concept.
We've got one more in the middle, and I think we'll take one more question after that if we can, and then we can move on with the day.
Yeah, I have just a quick comment about it's beautiful that we hear all that techie stuff and how fast we're gonna progress with web forms and so on. But I believe Charles mentioned that basic problem. I think we have all the obstacles about sharing data. And basically, in lots of instances, knowing less than our clients, because they have access to Realtor.ca, which we normally don't use, and they have all the data in one spot. And that, I think, is hurting us, like, as professionals, because we normally don't go to Realtor.ca, where all the data are properly shared. So I'm sort of thinking that data sharing should be on the plate of everybody and really take a big step towards getting to us professional what our clients have. Thank you.
Agree.
I think we can all agree with more sharing in the data.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah.
So in carrying on that question, I'd like to know, is prospects in talks with TREB to share data? Because that's the stumbling block. Everyone else is kind of playing nice in the sandbox, but they will not. So prospects, if we could have prospects and TREB, we don't need anything else. We don't
Sorry, I have to go.
The tough ones today. You keep getting the tough questions.
Yeah, I know. Is it the TREB question?
This is a tough question.
It's not the TREB question.
I mean, can you say, are you talking to them? Is this?
No, we're not. We don't have access to the data, to TREB's data. We don't, and I don't think we will for now. So as you know, TREB has been, caught up with the Competition Bureau, and it's a big issue there. I don't know all the details, but I know that for now they're not going to share their data with us or with any other boards, as far as I know. But you probably know more than me, Jeff, on that.
I think that's kind of the answer to anything with Preb and sharing right now. Is it never seems to be a no, but it's certainly a not now.
Yeah, they have a really convenient excuse with the Competition Bureau. They use it for everything.
Well, the government's always a good excuse. They use that every year.
So, for TREB, I think, I don't know who's asked the question. I can't, because of the spot, I don't see, but you know what? You need to ask the question. It's TREB's data. So the only people that can answer that question is TREB, right? Nobody else here has the answer except TREB. So when they will, I don't know.
How do they share with them with Realtor.ca?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I just don't know. You have to ask TREB.
Okay, I understand. They get justified here, but they use excuses to justify.
Yeah. Louche, I'm getting tired. Louche, it's French. I really don't know. I don't have the answer, and I'm certain that no one has the answers here. Yeah, I
think-
wish I had it.
Yeah, I call it inside the tent versus outside the tent. And unfortunately, Prospects is outside the tent. Korea is inside the tent when it comes to Trev and all of the boards across Canada, right? So Realtor.ca has become like the biggest marketing consumer website in Canada at least. So that's the reason that they participate, is because their Trev realtors are, have consumers that are demanding that that Realtor.ca posting. So that's the reason.
Probably if they didn't have their members wanting it, they probably wouldn't participate.
Right.
I think with Trev, outside the tent is a truism. There are lots of people who every day are inviting Trev to share. And a lot of people in this industry are inviting Trev to enter into those sorts of agreements. And, one day those invitations may or may not be accepted, but we are certainly inviting them, and we'll put that on the note for next year. We'll invite John and Jason to come down, and we'll have somebody to direct those questions to. Now, I know I'm conscious of time, and I know these guys have some great demos. I had lots more questions on my sheet. I'm sure you guys have lots more questions for them. Everyone's sticking around. There'll be some formal product demos taking place in this room. Charles, I know you have a booth out there. Everybody will be available and happy to continue any of these conversations. But what I took away for today was certainly, this is really still an industry that's about people. This is not about the technology. But the technology is getting easier, and we'll try a lot harder on making it even easier. Please update all those websites from the 1980s if you can, or hire a professional to do that. And the successful people are always, just like in any other industry, any other challenge, if you can adapt and you can take what works out of technology or what works out of these new opportunities, you're going to have success. So with that, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Around the conference. And thank you to everybody for coming out today.